My name is Adam Hausmeyer and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Before everybody goes out and buys them a brand new camera this year, there are a lot of exciting camera offerings coming from Sony and Canon, and probably from Nikon and on down the list. You owe it to yourself to look at the Lumix G9 before you go making any purchases. If you're into hybrid shooting, this is a great camera to have, and I highly suggest it. Now everybody knows that one of the main problems with Lumix cameras is autofocus, and I found that to be the exact case, that the autofocus on it is just not very good. In a situation like this, where I'm doing a talking head kind of segment and these trees in the background, I can't tell from the screen, but I'm almost positive they'll be pulsing in and out and everything. But it's super easy to go into manual focus, hit the button, and then hopefully you'll to avoid all the pulsating in the background. So let's go ahead and try that. So what we did was hit manual focus, and then I have a program on the front of it to focus on manual focus, the button. And as long as you stay generally in the same spot, there won't be much pulsating going on back and forth in the background, hopefully anyway. So even though the autofocus is not a strong suit of this camera, you can definitely make it work. This camera has many great specs, and it's just a shame that so many people sleep on it. Again, this is what 10-bit looks like in the camera. I found it to look really good when I'm doing videos in the 10-bit. The only problem with 10-bit is it takes up a lot of memory, and my computer struggles playing it back, but it does add just a little bit of extra pop, I think, to your videos. So it's worth looking into if you were to buy this camera. Like I say, you can also use the V-Log. You can get the V-Log with this. It's an extra upgrade that you have to buy with the camera, and you want to use it with the 10-bit for sure. But I found that grading this footage is a fairly simple process and doesn't take very long to get some really good looking footage. So it might be worth using in certain situations. But generally I just shoot in the natural profile and just regular 4K because it just seems to be much easier on my computers to edit. But it does have it, and it is there, and it's easy to use if that's what you're into. The camera also has 60 frames per second that you can shoot in 4K. I think that it's really nice to have that. Now you have a time limit of 10 minutes on this, but I really don't shoot just a whole lot of video like this. I usually use this for shots that I want really slow and steady pans, and I generally slow it down in post to 120 frames per second. But to me it looks really good. The only downside to this camera is the slow motion that I found. Just the way that it works, there's no autofocus in it, you don't record sound in it. So I really don't like to shoot in the high frame rate mode on this camera. I do like to shoot in the 60 frames per second in the 4K and slow it down in post. So that's generally what I do if I want some slow motion shots. But you can probably see that the 4K 60, it does look really good in this camera. Part of what makes this pretty much a legendary camera is the in-body image stabilization that's with this camera. It's really good in-body image stabilization. And while this particular lens doesn't have stabilization in it, the camera does. And I can walk around, and this lens would generally be pretty much too tight for vlogging, but it doesn't do a bad job. But you can see the image stabilization is just really second to none, if you ask me. So if you're in need of a camera and one of the most important things to you is the image stabilization, you can't go wrong with the G9 because it just does a really good job. Not only does it really do a good job on, when you're walking around like this, say if you want to vlog or whatever, but it also does a really good job on like if you want to just shoot a still shot, some video of something in particular. You can hold that camera as steady as it can be, and it'll look really good, particularly if you want to use the 60 frames per second. it looks really good, really smooth. Whereas if you get a camera with like a Sony that doesn't have in-body image stabilization or has pretty bad in-body image stabilization, it shakes around pretty good. But this camera I found really smooths things out, especially if you're shooting 60 frames per second. It does a really good job. So we just want to walk around the pool. And I can see in the screen here that this 30 millimeter, while a little bit tight, it does a pretty good job at blurring the background. It's not too bad at all. But it's a little bit too tight for vlogging, if you ask me. One of the major upsides of using the Micro Four Thirds system is how light the lenses are. I just have a few lenses for this particular camera. I have the 12 to 60 lens that came with the camera. I have a 35 to 100 zoom lens, and I also have this prime, which is the 15 millimeter 1.7. When I put those in the backpack, the kit becomes so much smaller and lighter. The camera itself is a fairly large chunk, you know, but the lenses are so small that it just becomes almost a no-brainer to take with you when you're going on, you know, on different excursions and such. It's such a lot setup to take. Other cameras that I've used in the past, they just seem to, you know, by the time you get 3 or 4 lenses in your camera in your backpack, man, it's just a hassle to take around with you, and it's something you just wouldn't want to carry around. But I found that this Micro Four Thirds setup, I can just pack it in a really small backpack. I can take my camera and those 3 lenses, maybe like a small microphone like the Video Micro, and that's pretty much all you need. That's a complete hybrid, you know, the Joby Gorilla Pod. That's a complete setup to take with you. You can make films, you can film stuff, and also you can have your photography covered as well. The weight and size advantage of Micro Four Thirds just makes this a very appealing camera to take with you, and it's been so hard for me to take anything else along with me. I've tried other cameras on the way, but they're especially the full frame cameras, they're just so much heavier and more bulky to take with me. I've tried the APS-C cameras. I don't know, just something about APS-C, it just doesn't do it for me. APS-C, of course, is right in between Micro Four Thirds and a full frame, so you really don't get the benefit of the smaller, lighter setup, and you really don't get the benefit of a full frame sensor in your camera. So I've kind of soured on the thought of APS-C simply because they just don't fit my needs very well, I guess I would say. They just don't do what I want them to do. Another benefit of the Micro Four Thirds is not only the size and weight of the lenses, it's also the cost of the lenses. The cost of the lenses is significantly less than its full frame or APS-C counterparts. It makes it really compelling when you're using a Micro Four Thirds camera, because you can have the whole kit for literally pennies on the dollars compared to a full frame camera. Now, like I say, the quality might not be nearly as good. The cost factor is considerably less. Sometimes when you're using that full frame stuff and all the newest, latest, and greatest cameras, the return on investment, running into the law of diminishing returns on that. Man, they are great for people that really know what they're doing, can benefit for having such highly technical cameras and the best and brightest lenses. For somebody that's just a small creator, the Micro Four Thirds camera may be the camera that you really want to look into before you go dumping a whole bunch of money into a full frame system. I'll end this video by showing you some of the pictures that I took around the backyard using the 35 to 100 f2.8 lens from Panasonic. You'll be able to see the blur that you can get in the background and the compression that the lens gives with the Micro Four Thirds system. I'm telling you, if you're looking for a camera, don't sleep on the G9. I hope you've liked this video, and if you have, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.